Are you looking for an internet talk radio station for your podcast? Look no further. At the helm of Passionate World Talk Radio are two women that want to provide a spot for you and your podcast to be heard. There are many other places for your podcast, but PWTR has the audience. You will not be disappointed. Our station has been on the internet for the past 16 years. Call us for more information. 484-364-1032 or text Jeannie White, station manager at THECONNECTSHOW@gmail.com for podcast show details. Welcome to Passionate World Talk Radio. Educate, enlighten, entertain.
Hello, everybody. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio, where our mantra is to educate, enlighten, and entertain. The views of the guests may not represent those of the host of the station. Folks, before I introduce my guest, I do have a public service announcement. It is going to be Memorial Day on Monday, and it's going to be D-Day on June 6th. And I really would like to encourage all of you to listen to my show with Doug Stapleton, who did a documentary on Madame Simone Renaud, who really appreciated the soldiers liberating France and what she did for the soldiers and their family. It's a very powerful interview. I also encourage you to go to the website, Mother of Normandy, and learn about this wonderful woman and what her town did for the men who died for their freedom as well as ours. And we need to remember that freedom is not free and the price that was paid. And that's my public service announcement. My guest today, I am so interested in talking to her, and yes, I do get excited about every guest I bring on, because I always learn from my guests, and I know you, the audience, does as well. My guest is Eliana Gilad. She is an international best-selling author. The book, Emerge Triumphant, Thrive Through Uncertainty. She is founder of Voices of Eden, Ancient Wisdom and Healing Music Institute, a healing voice mentor, a motivational keynote speaker, and Eliana was on 2 TED Talks that I saw, which are fantastic. Go on YouTube and check that out because you will be fascinated. And I want to welcome Eliana Gilad to Chatting with Betsy.
Thank you so much, Betsy, for that beautiful introduction.
You're welcome. Oh, and I have to say this because I'm so proud to have Eliana on. Not only is she all those wonderful things, but she also is a direct descendant of the Prophetess Miriam, because we are both Jewish, and I just feel like a connection right there. So I just had to mention it.
You know where there's another connection with your public service announcement. I was kind of tickled to hear that because it brought up memories of I was a CBS broadcaster. I worked for CBS when I lived in France, and my last project with CBS was the 50th anniversary of D-Day. So I was in Normandy preparing for my move to Israel. It brought back such memories when you were speaking of that. Yeah, and seeing that that was very powerful. Very, very powerful.
Yeah. Yes. I never heard of this woman. That's why I said my guest. The mantra of this station, educate, enlighten, entertain, is so very, very true, because I really have learned so much from each and every guest. And I never heard of this woman who's ahead of her time. And, the troops landed in her town, St. Marie-Église, and freed them from the Nazis. And really a wonderful story. Eliana, you have to tell me, because I always ask all the authors this, what motivated you to write your book?
Here we go back to France. After I worked I broadcast the Olympics, the opening and closing ceremonies. While I was born and raised in Los Angeles, I never felt like this was my home. And during the recession, like many people are experiencing today, everything's falling apart, and just cataclysmic changes. And I left for France. This is going to be a little roundabout way that I'm answering, but it answers the question why I wrote this book. So ever since I was a little girl, I never felt like my home was the U.S. It never felt like home. When I'm old, I'm going to have friends all around the world and go visit them. And I pretty much lived my life that way. And the trajectory has been at very strong crossroads where I don't know what to do next, where there's been a sudden change, or the old way is done, not working anymore, and I don't know what to do. I've always listened inside, and I've learned to do that more and more and more and more and more over, a 30-year period. And so I left the States for France, and in France, when I worked for CBS, I had already thrown away my television set. And I sat next to the gentleman who read the wire services, and it was always bad news. And I prayed to use my voice for a higher purpose. Fast forward after those Olympics, I'm again working for a living, and it was New Year's, and I pray to use my voice for a higher purpose. And I always felt like there's something more. Do you ever have that sense of that there's something inside of you guiding you, pushing you, but you don't have words for it? Like there's an inner nudge?
Yes. Yes.
So, it's like that nudge was so subtle yet so strong within me. And that for the first 30-something years of my life, that it's like that guided me. It drove me nuts because I could not figure it out. And everything I did, I'd go do this job and that job, or this thing and that thing, this relationship, that relationship, going, it's going to be this. And then I'd go into it and it would be okay for a little bit and then fall apart, or be really horrible in the end, and then to the next thing and the next thing. And that was my life. And so after that year in France, I said, if the bell doesn't ring inside, it was a little test I had with myself. If that nudge, if it doesn't ring with that nudge, I'm going to say no. Yeah, but you'll die. What, with faith you can buy bread in the marketplace? And I was on this really do-or-die mission. I was so unhappy inside of myself. Things looked fine from the outside. I was going about my life, but inside there was such a disconnect with how I was living in the world and how I felt inside. And it was so important to me, and still is, like that, my feeling at ease with myself inside is the most important thing. And so I decided that I wouldn't take work if that bell didn't ring, and I went without eating for 2 days because the money ran out. I said no enough times, and I had this monthly metro pass so that I could travel around Paris. That's where I was living at the time. And I heard about a spiritual support group for creativity. And I went to that meeting hoping that I would imbibe some inspiration. And from the metro to the meeting place, I remember that it was like an art. You're supposed to bring some piece of art, and I didn't have anything to bring. And I remembered a Hebrew spiritual from my Hebrew school days. If I have to, I'll sing that, but I'm not going to have to because I'm going to just sit in the corner, and then I'm not going to participate. I'll just listen. So I get to the room, and there's a big circle. There was no corner to hide in, and everybody shared their art or their creative whatever. And it got to me, and I shared that. I sang that spiritual, and then afterwards, there was this focus in the room, and afterwards, I shared that I hadn't eaten in 2 days. I'm on this do-or-die mission, and I really need to know why I'm alive. What is this? Why? Why am I here? And this man comes up to me, and he, with his finger, points it in my face, and he said, you have work to do with your voice. And he puts his hand in his jeans pocket, and he took out this crumpled piece of paper, and on it he wrote two train stations. And he goes, tomorrow morning, you be at the train station at 8 a.m. It's funny, it's 8 a.m. here in L.A. He goes, and you get on the train and you sing that song because the people on that train need it. I'm like, what? And the bell rings, and I'm like, no way. If I'm not going to work for a living, I'm certainly not going to go sing on a train. And I went home, and I didn't know whether I'd have the courage to do that. And I got up the next morning, and I went to the station, and my monkey mind is like, what are you, homeless? What do they think of you? What are you, a bag lady? And people are getting on the train, commuters, and I'm not getting on that train. But then, like at the last second, when the doors close, I push it open, I jump on the train, and this is, of course, before the days of cell phones, So everybody has their face in a book or a paper because in Europe, in Paris, it is not acceptable to establish eye contact in public. And I say in French, good morning, I have a small song to start off the day on the right foot, and I start singing this Hebrew spiritual. It's like the books come down, and the papers come down, and at the end of this song, there's like silence again like there was the night before, but this time it was so stressful. You could cut it with a knife because they're waiting for me to busk, to ask for money. And I say, so help me God, answer me now or I'll die on the spot. The choice is yours. I'm not going to be busking. I'm not asking for money. And what came out of my mouth is, I'm not here to ask you for money. If I'm here to ask you for anything, it's that you'll be true to yourself today and that you'll do something kind for yourself because it really matters. Your voice, how you speak to yourself, really matters. And I found myself going up and down the aisle looking at, like a nice Californian, looking everyone in the eye, so impolitically, and wishing them have a nice day. And they pushed money in my hands, and I had brought no hat, no pocket, no nothing, and I left. I knew for the first time in my life that I really made a difference, that my voice made a difference. And I went back the next day, and then the end of that week I was offered a very cushy, secure corporate job that would have, taken care of me, and I had to decide what I was going to do. And I realized that I had found my calling on the trains. It wasn't about the trains. The calling was that through voice, and through a particular use of voice and the music to allow for a container so that we could stop, if we only would, stop long enough to connect to ourselves inside. We could receive the answer to any question 24/7, get the answer, don't even need a Wi-Fi connection, And that if we dare to listen to that and develop the courage to trust what we're hearing and act upon it, it'll take us to good places. And so one day at a time, since then, like I did that every day for a year, and I earned more money than I would have earned at the cushy corporate job, but I never once asked for it. And during that year, there were so many stories. And when I would tell people what happened, they'd go, oh, my God, that's a book, that's a movie. You've got to write these things down. And I knew I would. And so, and also, the other thing that was clear was that I was to use media for constructive purposes. So our being on this interview right now is a full circle from 30 years ago. Like the launch of, this is the third book, Emerge Triumphant. And it's making good on that promise. And the premise of Emerge Triumphant, Thrive Through Uncertainty is, and why it's important ever more today, is that your answer is inside of you. Your personal promised land, it's inside, not outside. So it doesn't really matter what's happening outside. That's a catalyst. And we're all going through change. There's not a human being alive on this planet Earth. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. That those changes can be, there's a way, and there's a way that I've discovered to remain calm no matter what's going on, because I've lived, through 3 wars and literally bombs exploding around me and being able to stay present and calm. And we all have bombs in our lives, They don't have to be true bombs. We all have those. And I'd say it's about 10% what happens in life and 90% your attitude, how you respond.
True.
And the book is a support for us to, be able to thrive through the uncertainty, to emerge triumphant no matter what's going on.
I love that. I love your story. That is incredible. Now, how did you go from your book to being a founder of your institute?
Well, the institute.
And what does your institute do?
Well, the institute, I've devoted my life and my career. This is not. I've been at this for 30 years. I've trained, at this point, more than 10,000 conscious professionals in this approach, which is what I've been devoted to. The resurgence of it's a resurgence of an ancient feminine leadership and healing voice approach that I've researched. It's medically researched, and I'm the founder of it for over a 20-plus year period. And it's been putting one foot in front of the next. It's not from the book that I founded this. It's one step at a time over a 30-year period that I have been working at this. How do you prove something that's, thousands of years old that was never written down? And, back, at the beginning, like after France, then I moved to Israel, and that same voice said, move to Israel, settle in Galilee, you'll found a special center in a green place where you see blue, and the focus is over the seas, and it will have a focus of special music that combines East and West. And I had no idea what that meant. It took me 12 years once I moved to Israel to even know what that meant. and I may sound very cryptic when I'm speaking right now, and you might think, God, that woman is like crazy. She's out of her mind. I don't understand what she's saying. She's out of her mind. And you'd be absolutely correct. I am out of my mind. Because what is...
I get you, though. I understand where you're coming from.
and I'm daring now. It's like I'm daring to be who I am and not follow 30-second, on radio and television. I know I've been there, done that. I've been an Olympic CBS television broadcaster to 60 million American viewers prime time in the United States. 2-second sound bites. But there's a world beyond sound bites. And now it doesn't make sense. It doesn't. It's another paradigm. And when the old ways don't work and you don't know what's next, that life in the gap where it doesn't make sense. And, how's it working for you trying to figure it all out? It's like that way, the sound bite and the little way, it does not work with what we're dealing with today. And this approach is a means by which you can connect to the source of your clarity. And in ancient times, this was like how we lived. Leaders, they would go to temples and they would avail themselves of special sonic applications, therapeutic applications of wordless voice, wordless sound, and rhythm that would bypass the cognitive mind and connect them deeper within to higher mind, to their clarity, that would then provide calm so that they could see what's next, make decisions in the moment, and then continue on. And they would not run from the discomfort and the blocks and the, not knowing what's next, because they knew that figuring it out didn't work. That change, when we're going through change, it's like, when we're going through birth, and there's a wonderful discussion in the book about this, of birth is akin to transformation. As you get, when a woman is giving birth and the contractions are there, midwives actually interviewed a midwife about what's the connection to transformation and birth is there, and she laughed in my face. She goes, how could there not be? She said, when a woman is giving birth, there's a point in the contractions where she hits what we in the field, in the profession, call the wall. I said, what's the wall? She said, it's that point where the woman panics and she doesn't know whether she's going to get out of this dead or alive because she can't push anymore. She said that at that point, I, as the midwife, know that the birth is imminent and that it's a healthy birth. I'm like, really? How do you know that? She goes, because at that point, the woman can't push anymore. Nature just takes over. And I'm a midwife, I have the tools, I know what to do. Mm-hmm. Where it's really, where we have complications in birth is when the woman can't let go of wanting to take care of it on her own and to push and to control. That's where C-sections happen. That's when death in birth. That's when a premature birth happens and horrible complications. Wow. Oh, and what we're going through a birth. We're in the contraction phase. It's messy. It's painful. It is. Yes. But we're at a point of, we're at a point of the wall, the panic. And it's the time to let go. And these tools and this approach is like the midwife that helps you go through that gap period so that the baby of your next phase can be healthily birthed, because it's in the process if you'll only allow it to. You're here for a reason, and we each have a very important role. We each have a voice to express that no one else has. And this is not the time to be hiding under a rock, or running. This is the time to be showing up. Here's where the rubber hits the road.
Yes. I have to tell you, I almost called you Miriam. Eliana, I have Miriam on my mind. When I saw your TED Talks, and I watched a couple of your YouTube videos, and your music, to me, maybe it's because of being of Jewish background, reminds me of the Jewish singing. Is it from your music? Is that from the Israeli music background, or does it just come to you naturally when you sing?
That's a really interesting question. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
The music, no, it's not a specific kind of music. It's and yet what you're picking up on is it is connected to a very, 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 very ancient application. And it's a conscious use of voice. It's not a performance. And in ancient times, the adepts, and you mentioned Prophetess Miriam, and it would not just be Miriam, and Levites were the musician class, but the Levites are connected to a much more ancient tradition that is way pre-Hebraic and was practiced in the entire Near East and around the globe, as I see, just in different ways. That it's stepping aside instead of performing, where we sing or we do something. It's where the connection is perhaps, you would listen to a cantor, a cantor who is a kind of an instrument of the divine. That's the role of the cantor who chants the prayer. And that cantor is connected to the ancient tradition because it wasn't written down. It's passed down. So it's a different dynamic. And this particular approach is that the sound is coming from the source of the sound, which is the silence behind it. So that when you listen, it takes you to a beyond your mind and into a deeper place within, to a deep calm within, to a place of inner knowing, which when the Levites used music, they were still using music in that way, but it was this is a use of sound that can part the seas. And if you watch that second TED Talk, you guys go, oh, you know what? Yeah, go watch. The second TED Talk is called Trust Your Silent Voice because there are videos in there and research that corroborates with it, because I wouldn't dare say that before that second TED Talk. And you see the waters parting. We can with our voice, from the vibratory essence of our voice, which is not what we're speaking outside. This is an approach that helps you connect to that place of but you don't have words for it because it's beyond your cognitive mind. It's another paradigm. But it helps you to connect to that inner knowing and that inner clarity that you have with your outer expression. And in celebration of the launch of the book, I have made a free workshop. I mean, everyone who buys the book gets it, and also for this launch period, I'm also offering it. You could just go take the workshop, and in there is an amazing exercise. And oh my God, Betsy, you'll love it. It's recorded at the ancient site of the parting of the seas. I went and I pitched a tent out there, and at dawn. It is so powerful. And I'm not going to tell you what the exercise is. Yeah, go take the workshop. But it's an exercise to help you if like you're not clear on what's next for you, or you have some issue. Excuse me, that you're not clear on what to do, and you've been trying to figure it out, and you can't. That exercise or that workshop will be really helpful. It can really help you to take that next step forward, to know what's in your way and what to do next.
Oh, that sounds great. How do people get to that workshop?
Beyond your cognitive mind. And it's you can take it any time. I pre-recorded it so people around the globe can avail themselves of it.
And what would be the website to that, Eliana?
That is emergetriumphantnow.com.
Okay, that sounds great.
And on the book website, which is voicesofeden.com/book, you'll see at the top there's a little bar that has a link to the workshop too. Yeah, I'm so proud of it. I'm so excited, and the feedback is people are gaining so much from it.
I definitely have to check that out. I really highly recommend to the audience to go on YouTube and to look up, I'm going to spell Eliana's name, Eliana.
Yeah, you can find the first TED Talk on the voicesofeden.com website.
Oh, okay.
It's right there.
Oh, that's even easier. That's even better. Voicesofeden.com. I went on myself. I'm actually just joined your Facebook group, and I had that MP3 with the music, but because I'm tech challenged, I can't figure out how to get it. But I'll figure it out some way. I just think when I heard you.
Yeah, you'll receive it through email, and if you don't see it in email, check your spam box. Sometimes they get caught in it.
When I heard your talks, I was really inspired, and I'm going to share what I felt in hearing you speak. You gave me a spark, like you ignited a spark, because I've been using my voice. I never liked the voice that I have. It's the one that God gave me, so I'm using it. You gave me more, what you would call it, confidence, courage to use my voice. This is my voice. This is the way it is, and to shine bright in this world. And that's what I'm using my show for, is to provide people with resources. And when I heard you, I said, yes, I'm on track. I can't wait to interview Eliana, because I just want to tell the audience, we all have a voice. And sometimes we think, oh, what can I do? My voice doesn't matter. Your voice does matter. You can change yourself and the world. You can. You have the power.
You know what? Oh, my goodness. You know what? So here I have an invitation to you guys, too. I mean, you're like, you just said about this, your voice matters. And I started, like, at the same time of launching the book, I'm starting this movement, a Your Voice Makes a Difference movement. And I am we're collecting the first 100 stories of how your voice makes a difference. And so that would be that's a great story. It's like, if you go to yourvoicemakes-a-difference.com, and we're collecting stories of, so there's that voice that that you just spoke of. I can't, my voice doesn't make a difference, that, or I'm going to die, the world's falling apart, there's no point in doing anything, those two. And recount a story, like simple, few sentences, 100 words max. It could be you could record it on your phone and post it, you could write it anyway, it doesn't matter. But when you actually were responding in a way that makes a difference to you, and the dissing voice came up, and you listened to the higher voice instead of the diss, and you went ahead anyway, what happened? Those are the stories. Because then, yes, as we grow these stories, then there's a repository of support for trusting ourselves. Because commercial airways are based on, today actually it's much better because we have, shows like yours and podcasts and, niche audiences, thank goodness, so we can hear some. But for the most part, commercial media is there to sell fear and sensationalism. Yes, and we're here now to support your voice, to be who you are. You're enough. It's not.
Yes. Yes, people think, I'm not good enough to talk. I have to share this also with you, Eliana, and how you inspired me. Well, I'm busy being a host, so I haven't really had a chance to be a guest on other people's shows as much as I would have liked. And after listening to you, and I know this might sound woo-woo to some people, but after listening to you, I heard my husband had died 2 years ago. I heard him say, and Betsy, it's your time to fly. Go put your name out there that you want to be a guest. You wanted to share my story. Go do it. And that was just, listening to you was setting my match on fire. So thank you.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Betsy, because here's a real-life, real-time example of how each one of us showing up, we inspire one another. And the reason why this whole approach is called Voices of Eden is because it is to inspire what is occurring right in this moment. Imagine what happens as we each dare to stop long enough, and this is what got triggered in that train 30 years ago, that we dare stop and listen to ourselves, and that we develop the courage to trust what we're hearing and act upon it. And we hear each voice because they're no two alike. That forms a unified whole. To me, that's Eden. That's the world that I want to live in, and that's why I'm showing up the way I'm showing up. And now you're showing up the way you're showing up, and it's a ripple effect. And that ripple effect is so much more powerful than anything else. And it doesn't take everybody else doing it. No, it just requires us being ourselves, who we already are. How difficult could that be? It's pretty cool.
That's right. And I know you know Eliana, and people are talking about it more and more, but people are afraid to be their authentic selves. And we have to be. Honestly, folks, I could tell you this. I still listen to other people's shows, and I would say, I think to myself, I don't sound like that. Who's going to want to listen to me? But then again, I have my own unique style, my voice, and I'm being my authentic self. I'm doing shows the way I do them. I ask people questions that I'm curious about. And we just have to be true to ourselves. And it's never too late. I'm 64, folks. It's never too late.
Oh, no, yeah, 60s are great. Good wine. Good wine. Getting... I'm just getting started. And,
yes,
my experience is things get better because as you're wisdom, and this is something that the book and the free workshop really goes into, we dive deep into that, is that, as you dare to stop and connect to your own wisdom that's inside of you. I mean, what a great deal. It's like there's no right or wrong, because your wisdom is what you gain through your own life. It's just what you experience each and every day. And you can't screw up either, because if you make a mistake or go a wrong way, you'll learn the lesson, and then you have more wisdom, that you can take forward to help you the next time. And, the longer you live, it's like there's such a benefit to continuing on, with life, because you just, like good wine, you get better. Unless you're listening to your voice that says, oh, I'm not worth it, and why bother, blah, blah, well, then you'll get that. It's like whatever you want. It's your choice.
Yes.
You're that powerful.
Definitely. And I've said this on my show before. I'll say it again. I stepped into my power at the age of 60, and I'm a work in progress. We're all works in progress, and I keep just working on my inner self. And it's not a coincidence that this year I have talked to a lot of guests that are about, trusting your gut, which I always go by, but inner healing and finding, yourself and healing yourself on the inside. I needed that. I really did need to hear that. So I am ever so grateful that I am a talk show host and meeting wonderful people like you, Eliana, that are helping others and encouraging people to, find their voice and do your healing. We all matter. We all can make a difference. And I have to say this because I was just thinking, it probably goes back to the little bit of Hebrew school that I had. When I think of Miriam, and after they parted the Red, they didn't part the Red Sea, after God parted the Red Sea and they went through, and she was dancing, and they were dancing, and they had music. I think of a lively woman. I think of Miriam as a lively woman with great musical talent and inspiration to others. I just had to say that.
Well, yeah, you're plugging in. Yeah, that's what's written in the ancient text. And we see dancing and singing, yet it was so much more. Like, what if the voices parted those seas? Because I always thought, it doesn't make sense. Like, how could they be playing drums, skins in water? They wouldn't be able to play. Oh, yeah, but what if the voice parted the seas? And that's what in that second TED Talk, that research that I found, and you remember there's that, I love that video with it turns on the faucet and the water goes down. Did you see that with the water? And then they added a knob to it with silent sound, and when they turn that on, the water faucet, what do you call it? The stream of water, the water particles part, and they start dancing in the air. Oh, God, see? This is the proof. Here's the scientific proof of what I've known intuitively all along. And
it's incredible. That's amazing.
And so Miriam, I see her as the archetype of feminine power, and there are many in the book. The book is not a cognitive book. They're really, really teeny chapters, and they're meant to take you to that place. But there's the first part of the book actually covers who was Miriam, because people don't know. Over the last 20, 25 years when I've presented before 10 people to 10,000. It doesn't matter how many people. I go, so how many people know who the Prophetess Miriam is? And like, nobody raises their hand. Unless they're, if they're religious Christians or Jews, they'll know. But, a general population won't know. And then I go, who knows, who's heard of Moses? And that's 80%, depending on where you are in the world. That's around 80% of the people. And it astounds me because Miriam is his older sister, and it's she who prophesied his birth. If it weren't for her, Moses wouldn't have been born. There's in the ancient text, it tells of how the Pharaoh decreed the murder of the firstborn Hebrew babies. And Amram, who was the father and head of the Sanhedrin, which was the community, says, no way. No, that's not going to happen. I'm going to divorce my wife. I'm the leader of the community. The community will do the same. We won't have any babies. You won't have anybody to kill. And Miriam comes up to her dad. She goes, your decree is worse than Pharaoh's. He decreed murder of the firstborn males. You're going to decimate your entire people. So listen to me and listen to me good. You take your wife back, and people will do the same. And there will be another child born to you, and it'll be a son, and that son will lead our people and humanity into the next phase of evolution. And the father listened to her, took the wife back. Moses was born. Who is this that a father listens to, and it says she's a young girl. And the father listens. That's like, Christ, it's a similar thing, that Christ, it's that Christ energy. And, she was a prophetess. She would have seen what was going to happen. And my life has been, in my career, my 30-year career has been a kind of like a combination of a Sherlock Holmes, putting pieces of the puzzle back together between archaeology and the ancient texts and hieroglyphics and science and medical science, to put these pieces of the puzzle back together such that what got forgotten but not disappeared, it's been in full sight if you know where to look. And I feel so grateful. That is why it is so important, I believe, that I'm Levite, that maybe in my DNA or something, it just, that for whatever reason, I'm the human being, who this is her calling, Nobody taught me this. It's not written down anywhere. I didn't go to anybody to learn it. In fact, at some point, when I'd had enough success on the ground, I would just go anywhere, just the next step forward. When I had enough success, but before the research, I go, what do I do with this? I mean, what is this? And I went to my professor, who's head of music research at Hebrew University in Jerusalem. I go, Edwin, what should I get another degree or go back to academia? And he goes, Eliana, you don't have anything to find in academia, and neither with singing or drumming. He said, you're a pioneer. I mean, you're on to something, and you're just going to have to trust your voice. I'm like, thanks. It was a backhanded compliment, but it was so like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And it's like the next week I was presenting at this alternative health conference, and war erupted. And we got the road shut down, and we got locked down in the forest for 2 days and 2 nights. And ironically, the place was next to Armageddon, the biblical site of Armageddon. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, God, is the world coming to an end? And this is before the days of internet. So we have no radio, no television, no cell phones. And it took, took 2 days, 2 nights, being in there. When I got home, and turned on the radio, and heard what was going on. One thing was so clear to me is that if I react to this in my own way, I'm contributing to the problem. This is like eye for eye. More sensation, more sensation, more sensation, and it's this circle. And I go, well, what do I do? I mean, I didn't know what to do. I'd never been in a war before, and so I did nothing.
Yeah, and very scary. Well, our time is up, Eliana, and I loved having you as a guest. Please give a website. I know you mentioned it before of your place, and this will be in the blog, folks.
Yeah, so the book is at voicesofeden.com/book. And the workshop is emergetriumphantnow.com. Okay. And at voicesofeden.com, that's the main website. You'll find the TED Talk there also, the first TED Talk.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you so much.
Which will give you background on Miriam, and thank you so much for
you're welcome.
And that you're daring to move forward and to give voice to your beauty and and humanity's beauty. It's really important.
Oh, thank you so much. Those are beautiful words. I would love to have you come on again. I mean, I could talk to you for hours. We didn't even get into the drumming or anything like that, but yes, you're very welcome to come back on Chatting with Betsy again. And thank you for running your book and your institute and helping others. Folks, please share this podcast with other people to help other people. That's what the show is about. And you can catch this podcast all over again on your favorite podcast outlet. Please subscribe to Chatting with Betsy. It is free. I am on many platforms, but I'm on Spotify, Spreaker, Apple, to name just a few. I want to thank Jeannie White, who's station manager, Passion Talk Radio, for writing the blog, producing the show. And thanks to Lillian Caldwell, CEO of Passionate World Talk Radio, for giving people an opportunity to be heard and making this all possible. And I want to thank you, the listeners, for listening. Thanks for sharing. And in a world where you could be anything, remember, I always say to please be kind and shine your light out there. And I'm going to add, use your voice. Use it for good. Use your voice to help make a difference. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio. Bye-bye now.
Are you looking for an internet talk radio station for your podcast? Look no further. At the helm of Passionate World Talk Radio are two women that want to provide a spot for you and your podcast to be heard. There are many other places for your podcast, but PWTR has the audience. You will not be disappointed. Our station has been on the internet for the past 16 years. Call us for more information. 484-364-1032 or text Jeannie White, station manager, at THECONNECTSHOW@gmail.com for podcast show details. Thank you for listening to Passionate World Talk Radio. You can listen to this program all over again by going over to https://passionateworldtalkradio.com. You can also hear it on Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Alexa, AMFM247.com, every Tuesday evening between 8 and 9 p.m. YouTube, Facebook, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, and all the other podcast directories one can find on the Internet.